Welcome to another edition of the Quarantine Q&A right here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Sean Myers, Dan Flickinger. We're talking to athletic directors around Westmoreland County high schools, and today we're joined by Ryan Hayden, year number 1, guiding Jeannette. Ryan, thank you for taking the time. How's your day going?
Hey, thank you guys for having me. It's going well. I appreciate you having me on.
Mentioned it is your first year as athletic director, but let's look a little bit at your background because you have quite an athletic background leading up to this position. Take us through that.
Really played all sports growing up. Sports lover, really. And in high school played baseball and football. And then ended up playing baseball at Seton Hill for 4 years and had a great experience there. But growing up, played a little bit of everything. So.
And you mentioned you were a baseball player for the Griffins. Your fondest memories, I'm sure, related to Dan Flickinger broadcasting your games, right?
You better believe it. It's the only thing I remember. No, I'm kidding. Dan was great. Your guys' coverage of Seton Hill, and especially Seton Hill baseball, is just second to none. So I know I still tune in with the laptop, and I'm watching games live, and I'm listening to games live, and Dan called games for Seton Hill. So you really can't beat it.
Ryan was always one of my favorite guys to interview, especially that 2014 season. Certainly one of the most memorable years in Seton Hill baseball history. I always got to get that plug in. You helped lead the Griffins to their first ever Division II World Series appearance. And I had a home run call ready for you, Rob, but I didn't see any go out.
I know I really let you down there, Flick. That's definitely one of the fondest memories would be, especially after, being so close in 2013. That made 2014 just special and a different feel, just in a whole nother way. And even like you said, part of that run and that dog pile and winning the championship, and that's why you go to Seton Hill. At that time when we won that regional championship, I really wasn't an everyday starter guy. I was a role accepting guy that got in and did my job when I was called upon, practiced very hard, and played solid defense, and typically got in that capacity at that point in my career. I had a wrist injury and a couple things happened, but honestly, it didn't matter. It was such a total team feel of all 40 guys having such a big part. Definitely remember that like it was yesterday.
Ryan, you've had a lot of experiences, as you just mentioned, playing football, baseball, coaching baseball for a number of years at Hempfield Area High School, and then, of course, playing for Coach Maz at Seton Hill. How much have you carried those experiences over to what you do now as an athletic director when you talk to the kids?
Well, I would say it's really helped me. I would say the experience, with coaching, as far as dealing with high school athletes and parents and everything that goes into it, and really just building those relationships has really paid off for me. Again, I'm a team guy and kind of a rally the troops guy, get people going type guy. I was like that when I played. I know when I coached for Hempfield for the past 5 years, I was very vocal, and Coach Buzz and I put in a lot of hard work behind the scenes as far as that goes. But as far as relating to kids, I've pretty much always been able to, build pretty solid relationship with people. And that's probably the most important thing. If you care about a guy or a girl, you're going to play hard for them and respect them and listen to them and things like that. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, just letting them know that you are there for them. You have their back.
You have obviously that great experience, but in terms of your experience as athletic director, less than a year, you took over last summer. What were the biggest lessons and the biggest takeaways in your first school year guiding Jeannette?
Oh man, well, other than girls soccer being a very physical sport, Sean.
Yeah, I would say that's probably near the top. But aside from that, what did you learn?
No, I'm messing around, but I guess really. I'm still learning. So a lot of things. I mean, I'm talking before taking over, yeah, I had experience. I have no issue reaching out to people and communicating and those types of things. I love sports, but as far as the inner workings and everything that goes into what may seem simple on the surface is usually not that simple. And again, I think the biggest way to answer that is I really am still learning and still trying to learn. But again, the relationship thing with the coaches and the administration, I've never had a role where I was really around the administrative people so much. So I guess I'm learning as far as how to communicate to different groups of people. You have to kind of communicate differently depending on who you're speaking to. And again, just everything that could go into what seems like, hey, you show up at a soccer game and you watch a soccer game and you go home, or you come down to McKee Friday night, watch a football game and go home. Well, when you're behind the scenes, making sure you have workers in place and et cetera, that is, that's a long list of a lot of people that really have to go out of their way to help you. So again, just the inner workings of things and really how things work, how systems work, PIAA, WPIAL guidelines, those types of things that I've had to read up on and learn more about being in this role that I've really never had to know those things or be in that role before. But still learning though.
While you came on as athletic director over the summer, the plan was already pretty much coming to fruition with the turf field at McKee Stadium. But for people with that great football tradition at Jeannette, it symbolized a pretty significant change. And I think that the results were pretty positive. What feedback did you hear from that, and what benefits did not only football but a number of sports really take from Jeannette?
Yeah, that right when I took over, the field was just kind of getting ready to be completely finished, and definitely, with the following of Jeannette football, especially that you get in our town, that grass field was almost like a holy ground. So sometimes change certainly can be uncomfortable. So it's funny, I even remember at first when the turf was just getting done and people going to step on the turf and looking around. And I'm like, no, go ahead, You're not going to hurt. You can't hurt anything. Trust me. So that whole concept of stay off the field, it's going to open a lot of doors that we really haven't seen come to fruition yet because of the canceling of spring sports. But honestly, I think the feedback, Sean, couldn't have been more positive. I know most of the things that I heard with the town, the community, the coaches, the workers, everyone, they love it. It's beautiful. Not only is it beautiful, but in Western Pennsylvania, it gives teams a big advantage going from grass to turf, just in the sense that you look at the year before this, and we're not even practicing on that field because there might be rain in the next few days, and we can't mess it up for potentially that Friday night. So as far as being able to have access, anytime during the day to turf for any teams, and as long as it's not thunder lightning, you're pretty much good to go. That I think it's really gonna pay off and make a big difference. And again, we haven't had time yet really to see it. I know the baseball and softball teams were out on the turf for a couple early spring practices. I know in talking to Coach Hall, we were looking forward to potentially hosting some 7-on-7s now because we don't have to worry about people being on the grass and messing up the grass, and just for the convenience of practicing too. It's just so much more efficient from a practice standpoint as well. But I think once everyone gets on board and sees really what this can do for various teams and even camps and clinics, and a way to get the community involved too, holding different events on it could be good. I also wanted to say too about the turf. We probably have one of the hardest working maintenance guys of all time. His name's John Dorsbacher. He's the absolute man. Does everything, handles everything himself. He has a crew, but he is a busy guy. And I know, he was the one that would keep up the grass field and make sure we're all good to go. So he takes a lot of pride in what he does. So I know the first few months with the turf, he's looking around itching like, hey, can I run the brushes on this thing yet, or do something, because he's such a good solid worker. So yeah, other than John not having to cut the grass anymore, that's a big thing too. So it gives him some more time maybe in other areas. I know he's super busy.
And Flick, we just had one of the classic broadcasts that the field was not in great shape.
That was the last time that a football game was played on natural grass surface at McKee. Jeannette Clairton.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I guess that would have been. Yeah.
Yep.
It was not pristine condition.
No,
correct?
no, it wasn't. No, but no matter what, I mean, if that was held, and there's not many places that have natural grass surfaces anymore. Obviously, you look at around Westmoreland County, I guess Derry, Greensburg Central Catholic, Latrobe, I guess playing in downtown. But no matter what surface would have been under that amount of rainfall, probably would have got torn up pretty badly. But I don't know, it almost felt, Ryan, like that was maybe the last straw. And I know you weren't there at that time, but when that game was played, and it was a shame because, again, if that's on turf, even though how hard it was raining, you get Jeannette and Clairton on a fast track. I mean, that's a lot of fun. So it was kind of a shame that it was raining as much as it was, but it was almost like the last straw there because the field was so torn up that we need to get turf.
Yeah, no doubt, Dan. And I actually was at most of those home games that year, and it seemed like we had a ton of rainouts and mud games. I'm a turf guy personally, like football or baseball. I prefer turf. I know people have different feelings on that, but as far as, our speed in football definitely is a strength of ours. So, you put a Jeannette versus even an average opponent in a complete mud bath, you never know.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it also makes a ton of sense, and I think it would play to our advantage or a Clairton's advantage, like you said. But it's also great for the boys, girls soccer, the baseball, softball, the middle. If we get some more middle school programs going here in the next few years, just being able to practice, I guess, it's really opened some doors as far as availability.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I mean, that's a huge thing when you get turf, Ryan, and I did want to ask you about it, but you mentioned it a few times already. It's not just used on Friday nights. I mean, this is used for practice, and I think that's one of the biggest things, right? I mean, like as a baseball player, guys can get out there and get reps in. They don't have to go on the baseball field.
It's all the difference. It's all the difference in the world. Baseball, defensively, you can do exactly the same things on a turf football field as you could on a baseball field defensively. So, it's definitely huge. We might even have – I know our administrative team is talking about having graduation at the stadium this year because of the circumstances. So that's just another small example of something that probably doesn't even come to fruition if we have a grass field.
Talking to Ryan Hayden, athletic director in his first year at Jeannette here on the Quarantine Q&A on the Westmoreland Sports Network. I know each and every year football has championship aspirations. The boys basketball team has aspirations at least of contending for a section title, if not going to a championship game. And I think there was really positives and negatives this year for both those programs. Great regular seasons, maybe a little bit of disappointment in the postseason. As an athletic director, how do you evaluate a season that has great peaks, but also some valleys towards the very end?
Yeah, we talking football or both, Sean?
Whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. So, I think the biggest thing when you mention the words disappointment or heartbreaking ending, like you mentioned, that also tells you that there has to be more to that story. There had to have been a lot of good that happened as well. Like just starting with football, like you said, the program's tradition and what Coach Hall, who I'm very good friends with, and his staff does just an unbelievable job year in, year out, just getting our guys ready. And look, there can only be one winner. So that's what I think people have to remember in these tournaments. And when you get into these, body of work matters, but sometimes in the WPIAL playoffs, you get to the playoffs, it's such a quick one and done that then you may have an unbelievable body of work and it almost goes forgotten and unnoticed because of, again, a few mistakes. You can't get in those playoff type games and not be ready for those moments, and you really can't make any mistakes. So as far as football, I would consider this season a huge success, and that's just how I feel personally. Again, because when you look at it, there can only be one winner. But as far as how our kids played, the effort they played with, the togetherness that this group showed, the leadership. I mean, we had seniors, really, really solid seniors that really just maintained a great focus for the team. And I know it didn't work out at the end, but again, sometimes you put everything into it and it still doesn't go your way, especially in those big playoff game type scenarios. You make a few mistakes and all of a sudden it's a totally different ball game. But I'm super proud of our football team's fight throughout the whole season. Also how they conducted themselves. I mean, little things like grades and how they interacted and conduct themselves with adults and teachers, I thought was just beyond solid this year. So, I mean, we have probably a handful of guys going and playing at the next level, too, that are seniors. So when you look at it like that, one loss in the regular season to a good Clareton team at Clareton. It's a close game during the first half. They run a kickoff back to start the second half, and it kind of gets away from you. And then, you draw a tough Stowe Rocks team, and you have to beat everybody to win a championship. So the draw necessarily doesn't matter. But Stowe Rocks is a tough team. That's a game that, our team last year plays that Stowe Rocks team 10 times. That could be, each team could win 5 of them. You just don't know. And that's kind of how that game went. Again, you can't make mistakes. We fought and we had chances in that game. Stowe Rocks kept giving us chances, kind of letting us in the game. But it's just one mistake too many. Again, I don't think you can fault our guys' efforts at all, or Coach Hall or his staff's efforts. I just think in the win-loss category, we didn't get the result we wanted, no question, and that's heartbreaking, especially with the amount of time that I know that Coach Hall and his staff puts in. I know that one hurt. I've been on that end of those nights where you lose a big game like that, and I can really relate to that feeling. So I'm sure that takes a few days to get over, and you look back and you see what you could have done different. But as far as the body of work and how the message that Coach Hall sent to our kids this year and how our kids conducted themselves, for every minute, how they practiced everything, was really awesome to see. So again, didn't get the result we wanted, but I would consider this football team season a definite success. I wouldn't consider. You want to win a championship, so when you don't win a championship, instantly it's like, well, we failed. True. Other things do matter too. So. Take it for what it's worth. I'm proud of the fight and the those kind of things that our football team showed this year. And then basketball, the thing that people forget, I think, because we got so hot there for a stretch, is that we weren't really supposed to shock anybody. We weren't supposed to have the kind of year we had. So just to have such a successful regular season and earn a 3 seed and a bye in the playoffs, if you would have told myself, or I'm sure Coach Batts, who's another good friend of mine, if you would have told either of us before the season started, hey, you win your last 12 games, whatever it was, you earn a 3 seed, you got a bye, and you who'd we play first round?
Was it Shenango?
Shenango, yeah. And you draw.
Nice.
You get a bye. Nice, Sean. You get a bye and you draw Shenango as the 3 seed. Would you take it? Absolutely. The answer is yes. So that's just another example of then you get down there after a 2-week layoff and you're playing a very good Shenango team. And, Coach Batts, he's not a complainer, but he was he knew that Shenango was tough. He really did. He knew what they were up against, and he knew that we pretty much had to play our best game. And if you saw that game, we didn't play our best game. We didn't get off to a good start, and it seemed like we kind of weren't into it at first, and couldn't get in a rhythm, and couldn't get anything positive going. And like I said, with football, it's the same with every sport. I've seen it in basketball. I've witnessed it firsthand in baseball. The reality of momentum shifts and the littlest thing just making the biggest difference is just so very real. And again, you get in those big games, you have to play your best, and you can't make mistakes. So that's kind of what happened. But again, I'm proud of those guys too. Again, Coach Batts, I thought him and his staff did a great job this year. I thought they overachieved. Again, it sucks to go one and done. That's never fun, and that's never the plan. But I think the season they had from really not knowing what they were going to get out of that group was pretty remarkable.
Another remarkable thing is what Terrell Pryor did for the basketball team. I think there was a little wager in place that had they won the section, he would reward them with some new Nike basketball shoes. That came to fruition, and he lived up to his end of that bargain. A really good story that I know everyone thinks Terrell Pryor when they think Jeannette for what he did on the football field and on the basketball court over a decade ago, but he's still very much involved, and that was just a small gesture there.
Yeah. Again, everyone knows Terrell as an athlete, or possibly the best football player that like our state has ever seen. So everyone knows that side of him, and I don't know Terrell personally very well, but that was kind of the deal, Sean. If we, he told us if we won the section, he reached out and he wanted to do something nice, and he wanted to give back. He wanted to come around our guys and just say hey and say, and just kind of show them and be that role model type. He ended up buying the entire team a pair of shoes, and then I think the wager was that if we won the section that he'd get us another pair for the playoffs. So he held up on his end of the bargain with that for sure, and we're very thankful for that and for his generosity, and we surely welcome people like Terrell to if they're willing to come back and help us in any way, whether it be talk to our athletes, sit down and meet with them. I know Terrell bought us shoes, and that was beyond generous. So again, we're just very thankful for that, and we're thankful for a lot of the alumni who came out of Jeannette who are doing great things and have reached out and are willing to try to help.
Another great story this past sports season, Ryan. When you look at Jeannette, everyone talks about football and basketball, but there's some wrestling tradition there too. I know you no longer have a team, but you do have that co-op with Hempfield, and Ethan Bergen made a heck of a run in the PIAA tournament all the way to a state champion. So not only is he a Hempfield state champion, he's a Jeannette state champion too, and I know the community really rallied around Ethan, and whenever he won that gold medal, the community really came together, and the school came together to really celebrate that gold medal as a Jeannette wrestling state champion. Talk a little bit about that experience with Ethan.
Yeah, so we're all just incredibly proud of Ethan. I will start by saying how thankful we are for the co-op that we have with Hempfield, because without that and without them being willing to say, okay, we'll take you guys on, the few wrestlers that we have, this wouldn't even be possible. And again, like you said, there's some strong wrestling tradition. You're right, at Jeannette guys going back even to the Roy Hall, his brother Greg Hall, you had Matt Leby, just some absolute studs. So yeah, we look at Ethan as one of ours. He obviously wrestles for Hempfield, so he's one of them as well. And I think it's a great thing. He's homegrown here in Jeannette, but because of the opportunity and the co-op that we have with Hempfield, thank goodness he's able to wrestle. And what a run that he went on to do it in the way he did it, as far as not being a WPIAL champion and then being a state champion. Like you said, Dan, just the community really did rally. They were all very, very excited for Ethan and for us at Jeannette to have someone who is, representing not only Hempfield wrestling, but the district and the community of Jeannette in such a positive light. And I really can't say enough good things about Ethan as a kid. He's just super level-headed, he's a down-to-earth kid. He's super hardworking. I don't know, a little story. I know when he got back from States, he's good friends with Brett Birch, who is going to be a junior for us. He plays football. He's a wide receiver and defensive back for us. And Brett and Ethan are good friends. And Ethan came home from the state tournament. He had just won. And either that evening or the following morning, he texted Brett Birch and he said, "Hey, what are you doing? You want to go get a workout in?" So that just says a lot about where Ethan's head's at. I don't think he's going to stop anytime soon as far as trying to get better and trying to, really reach his full potential and better his craft. And he's darn good. And we're proud of him. And I think really bright future for Ethan.
I have to mention this too, Ryan. I mean, this wasn't something that you see very often at all. Ethan is the first wrestler in state history to come out of the pigtail round, win 5 matches, and to win the state championship. The first wrestler ever since they instituted the pigtail rounds in 2015. I mean, I know he's hoping to have a little bit better of a seed next year, and I'm sure he'll get that. But he got a number of collegiate offers for this gold medal, and for him to battle his way out of the way he did out of the pigtail round is really something special. So really looking forward to seeing, how he's going to do next year and capitalize and build off of it.
Oh, absolutely, Dan. He's just he's gritty. He's gritty, and he's pretty resilient. He's also the first wrestler in Jeannette history to win a 4A state title.
Right. Yep.
So just Ethan's doing some big things, some things that have never been done, and so surely if you're rewriting a little bit of history, then you're doing something right.
Shifting to the spring sports, Ryan, I'm sure you were very looking forward to baseball because that's a sport that you played. You also were a coach at the high school level previously. What anticipation did you have for that sport, and did you plan on getting involved personally? Maybe a little bit more than some of the other sports.
Yeah, didn't work out as planned, huh? No, I was very excited. Because, again, I'm passionate about baseball, softball, and I was excited to, in the middle of these seasons, be kind of behind the scenes and kind of firsthand be able to witness some of these big decisions and what should we do here? What should we do here? Because, again, I am a baseball guy, so I was very excited for that, and I was excited to help in any capacity that I could without really being overly involved. I wasn't going to necessarily this year go to all the practices or go to all the games and kind of overstep in that sense because Marcus does a great job and he's been doing this at Jeannette a lot longer than I have. So he does a great job. But what I will say is, this isn't, I guess, the worst year baseball wise for this to happen to us just because of sheer numbers, guys. So we really didn't have, we were really pleading with some kids to, hey, that are not baseball guys. Hey, can you help us out here, come out and play baseball. And our numbers were, let's just say they were under 13. So that would have presented its own struggles this year. It was certainly a rebuild type, get some kids involved, get some younger kids involved in the program type year. So from that standpoint, I'm not sure how competitive, we may or may not have been. But again, Marcus does a good job developing these kids. So it is a shame that, some of the young kids who we got to come out are going to miss out on that first year. And I love watching baseball, so that's unfortunate. Softball as well. I will say I was very excited to watch our softball team this year. Very excited. I stopped at a few softball practices early on in the year too, and I I had to flip a couple rounds of BP to our girls just to see what we were working with. We had, a lot of seniors, probably 7 seniors and 18 girls on the team, and that's just varsity only.
Wow.
So those are like some of the highest numbers that we've ever had for softball. We were coming off of a playoff appearance last year. Our one pitcher is a senior. She's going to Waynesburg next year. So honestly, we were really excited to see what kind of noise our softball team could have made this year. So I guess in that regard, I feel even worse, I guess, for not worse, but I really do feel for our girls too, softball players, because of the promise that this season kind of held. And I know our players were very, very excited, and we were ahead of the game as far as that goes, as far as investment and that commitment thing.
When the news came down that the spring sports seasons were officially canceled, I think it was expected but disappointing nonetheless. What was your reaction, and what were your responsibilities after that verdict was made?
My reaction wasn't really anything. Like you guys said, we've been hearing the chirps about this may happen, that may happen. So at that point, I was in my head kind of planning for the worst, but still kind of hopeful. So really, what I had to do was not that extensive, considering we only have 2 sports. So of course, I got on the horn with those 2 coaches, explained to them the situation. I told them if they need any help reaching out to their players or doing anything for their players during this time to keep me in the loop. And I just told them to proceed with telling their team what's going on day by day, because at that point it kept changing. So I just encouraged them to be positive and to remain in touch with those athletes, whether we were going to have a season or not. Just again, going back to just to show them that we are here for them. There are bigger things sometimes than sports, although I'll argue that, I guess. But there are bigger things in the world sometimes in sports, and this was an example where everyone we put life into perspective a little bit. Of course, it's tragic for those seniors who missed the season, and for all the coaches and players that have worked so hard getting ready for the season. So that's unfortunate, but other than that, Sean, just reach out to umpires and those types of people, and the buses and transportation, just to let them know that, like everybody else, that we're on hold right now. And as we got word that we were completely shut down, we proceeded in that sense as far as reaching out to those same people, getting in contact with the coaches, and moving forward.
Ryan, along the same lines of keeping life, in perspective, a tragic shooting happened at one of the home games last year. A tragic fatal shooting happened at one of the home games last year at McKee Stadium. Now, it happened outside of the stadium. It, thank goodness, did not involve any students, any school administration. It was an isolated incident between 2 men. But when something like that happens, I know everything is evaluated. So what have you, along with the school, discussed in terms of any new procedures that we may see at McKee Stadium this year?
Yeah, first and foremost, like you said, Dan, thank goodness that that no one else was injured that night, and that was an isolated incident. Also, very thankful for how the team of workers I had around me responded in the moment. Certainly in the moment was about it didn't feel real, and it was about the worst nightmare of a way to start one of your first home games as an athletic director that I would say you could possibly describe. So it definitely took a few days. I was shaken up for a minute there for a day, and then, hop back on the saddle and figure out, okay, what do we need to do next? Where do we need to go from here? And like you said, everything is talked about. So we quickly made some changes for the following week. Really, there might have been 2 weeks. We might have been away that next, and then home the week after. But for that game, we upped security in a sense. But I don't want people to think that we didn't have security when the incident happened, because we certainly did. Mm-hmm. Again, no one ever expects something like that to happen. So we did have security in place. We had Jeannette police officers in our stadium as that happened, actually. So what we did was we decided to shut down the top gate for entry. There's 2 gates you can kind of enter. So we started funneling everybody in the bottom gate only with walk-through metal detectors and wands. So we were able to borrow some metal detectors. We ended up purchasing some wands. We hired another team of security to just man that gate as far as wanding and admitting people into the stadium. And then we had our own separate security crew that was kind of in the stadium, one down on the sidelines, one up behind the press box, just scattered around doing their job as well. So that top gate, you were only, if you were handicapped or something, you could get dropped off and we'll let you in the top because it's an easier walk. But that gate, you weren't allowed to just stroll in anymore. We started parking less cars up top there rather than just kind of people parking wherever there's room. We literally are sticking to the handicap parking spots only. So no more really making up your own parking spot. There's so many spots, and once those are gone, then you're out of luck. And we would shut that top gate. Also, again, like I said, the security down at the bottom gate, the metal detectors really, put a lot of people's mind at ease because with those, you really can't go wrong. We also implemented a no re-entry policy, so no longer could you leave the stadium and do whatever you needed to do and then enter the stadium again. So we took that away, and that will probably remain this year. I know moving forward to this year, we're looking at purchasing portable walk-through metal detectors. So that's something that we're going to continue with that trend. If we can get the top gate open back up again, like I said, for those handicapped people, then we'll do so. But we'll kind of just play it by ear. We all have walkie-talkies now. We're all on the same page. We communicate as far as those things go and those possible security things could go. So definitely a wake-up call. Never think it's going to happen. Terrible that it did happen. But like you said, Flick, put some new procedures in place because it could happen anywhere.
Sure.
It could happen anywhere.
Ryan, there was a lot of talk about the football realignment and the different proposals with the WPIAL. There was a status quo that kept things pretty similar based on classification. There was also a geographic proposal. Ultimately, they elected to go with the classifications remaining intact, and they switched up a little bit of the non-conference, and I know that's something you're excited about. What were your thoughts on the different proposals and what was ultimately settled upon?
Well, the different proposal, the thing with us is the two personally, I like them both. I would have been perfectly fine had it gone either way. Obviously, I reached out several times, sat down several times with Coach Hall, who also reached out to his staff, and he took a little in-staff vote, and we got kind of what the pulse or feeling by them would be. I really wanted Coach Hall's input more than anyone as far as how Jeannette would vote, but we knew that this was a one or the other type scenario. So although we had a vote, we knew that the majority would still rule. So after talking to Coach Hall, again, like I said, I had no problem with either. We decided I think we voted on the proposal that they went with. And yeah, I couldn't be happier as far as, nothing's really changed as far as in our conference other than the addition of Bishop Canavan, which is great. But other than that, it wasn't a huge difference for us. So I guess that's why I'm saying we would have been okay either way or happy either way. But what I really am pleased with were the crossover games and those weeks 1 and 2 games. I think the WPIAL and the steering committee and everyone involved, I really do think they did their due diligence in sitting down and trying to figure out, again, not going to please everybody, but trying to figure out a system that seemed to me more geographically logical and some better games, it seemed like. So I'm very, very happy with, this year we open up with East Allegheny week 0, Ligonier Valley week 1, and Stowe Rocks week 2. So as far as getting tested early, again, we want to play good teams. Like we want to play teams that are going to test us and show us where we are, and win or lose, so that we're better off when it comes postseason time. So, yeah, very pleased with those two matchups for sure. I think the Ligonier Valley and the Stowe Rocks weeks 1 and 2 are going to bring some big crowds, and I think they should be great football games.
Ligonier Valley is a school that is returning to the WPIAL, and for a long time they were the only Westmoreland County team that was not in the district. I'm sure you mentioned that's going to have an impact in football, but potentially a lot of sports where the Jayhawks and Rams could ultimately meet.
Yeah, it could. And we're, like you said, they're not too far from us, so we're really glad to have them. We're excited that they did decide to join. And yeah, if we play them in, we'll definitely try to play them in other things, whether it be exhibitions or whether they get scheduled against us. I've definitely spoken with Corey, their AD, multiple times, and he's a great guy, and we're glad to have him.
Ryan, this has been a chaotic and unprecedented time for everyone, whether they be athletes, coaches, athletic directors, people outside of the sports world. How has it changed your, typical day, and what have you been able to do with maybe some additional free time that you would have been dedicating towards these spring sports? Yeah,
so again, I like to keep moving, so it's not ideal for me to kind of be stuck sometimes, nor is it for anyone, I'm sure. The online teaching has taken up a decent amount of time. I teach 6th grade learning support over at Jeannette as well. So, we have 3 or so 1-hour-long Zoom meetings a day where kids can hop on and we answer questions, and we've been navigating through Google Classroom. So that's been keeping me busy for sure. Some AD things as far as schedules and planning for next year a little bit has went into it as well. Try to stay a little bit active myself, whether it be walk or jog, or try to get in some kind of little workout or sweat at my house or something, and enjoy playing golf. So when the golf courses open back up, that'll be a good day for me. But other than that, it's pretty much it, Sean.
How about the Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance? What do you think about it?
Oh, I love it so far.
It's awesome, isn't it?
I love it so far, Dan. Yeah. I'd probably get off here and watch the next 6 if I had them available.
Well, I saw at the beginning it says a partnership between ESPN and Netflix. So I have a feeling that it will be on Netflix. Once it's over. Once the live version's over on ESPN.
I hope that's good stuff. I can't get enough of that behind the scenes type stuff from those big time guys. I've always ate that stuff up. So. Some of Jordan's comments and just some of the quotes so far have been awesome. But I'll tell you what. What I didn't realize, one, other than Scottie Pippen being so undervalued,
right,
was like, yeah, it's Jordan, and you have Kobe, you have LeBron, but like even at that level, Jordan, as we saw last night, he didn't win until he changed his mindset to more of a team mindset. Mm-hmm. So I just thought that was so telling and interesting. Again, sometimes the better player or the better team doesn't necessarily win. You have to do the things that are necessary. And winning championships, as I've learned at Seton Hill too, it is a process. You could get luck. You could have a little bit of luck factor too and win one. But usually it's a building block process. And, you saw with the Pistons on there, and then you saw it when Jordan I know last night I was watching in the game, he kept just dishing to Paxson, and Paxson couldn't miss. So even a guy like a Michael Jordan who wants the ball in his hands every second, he knew that he wasn't going to win a championship completely by himself. So I just thought that was really cool.
I think it's a great documentary for younger kids to watch. Number one, because all they know is LeBron, and some know Kobe too, I suppose. But I think it's great to watch for that reason, but also for the reason, as you mentioned, if a guy like Jordan can transform his game into one that he's not going to be selfish, even though he wants the ball all the time, I think that's a great learning tool, for younger kids to watch that, for high school kids to watch that documentary. So.
Me too. I hope high school kids are all watching this because, like you said, they didn't get to. I didn't get to witness Jordan in his early years necessarily, but I remember watching a little bit later in the last three. But yeah, hopefully these guys are taking advantage of this.
Do you have a take on if he's the best ever?
Ooh.
Yeah, I have him at number one for sure.
I believe Coach Batts was a big Kobe guy, right? I think we heard that.
Coach Batts is a huge Kobe guy. I don't think I've ever had a conversation with Coach Batts about MJ. But yeah, I love the competitiveness of the Jordan and Kobe's. I just absolutely love. Not that LeBron isn't. You can make the argument for LeBron probably over him. I'm sure a lot of guys could make that argument with the numbers and the stats, and he's not done winning championships either. But yeah, I have Jordan 1.
Anything that you want to accomplish throughout what hopefully will be a very long tenure as athletic director at Jeannette? Long-term goals for you?
Yeah, just that consistent kind of growth and the student athlete experience. Just helping our programs be as successful as they possibly can, helping our student athletes get to where they want to be in life, not just in the confines of Jeannette, and just them growing as people and individuals is very important to me. Winning's important, but the conduct and the contribution to school, community, life, the world, that stuff really does matter too. So as far as like a long-term vision other than successful programs, and having good relationships with coaches and people, just, giving our athletes the best experience they possibly can as far as what, the things that I can control, and how they conduct themselves and how they grow as people, and the kind of hopes and aspirations they set out for themselves moving forward in their own lives, and is something that, hopefully if I'm here for a while that I can help influence.
Well, Ryan, certainly I think we can count on you once the sports return, which everyone is anticipating, that you'll get our viewership up for all the Seton Hill broadcasts, right?
Let's go. I hope so. Yes, I hope.
That's Ryan Hayden.
You're the man, Ryan. Thanks, buddy.
First-year athletic director for Jeannette.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us here on the Quarantine Q&A. That'll do it for this edition. For Dan Flickinger, Sean Myers signing off. We'll catch you again on Westmoreland Sports.